Hi, Dawn from Dawn's Dirt. And dirt can mean growing things, dirt can mean plants, dirt can mean gardening, it can mean, politics, religion, or anything else that comes up. And so, yeah, we're here to talk about some crazy dirt things today. I have my friend Jeralyn Miller here, and I'm so excited to have her. Jeralyn has been my friend for, I bet, 20 years. We've known each other back when we were, just young and didn't have kids. And yeah, so we've known each other a very long time. And Jeralyn is actually a body image coach. Hopefully I got that right. And so, yeah, if you can just introduce yourself and give us a little bit of information on who you are and what you do.
All righty. Yeah, I am a body image coach, and I work with women to help them heal their relationship with their bodies and also with food, because those two things are very closely tied together. So I work with women through a 90-day program, helping them heal these relationships and help them to embrace who they are, accept their bodies, respect their bodies, and build a positive relationship with food. So that's a little bit about what I do.
I love it. Yeah. And that's the thing, body image is so big, and especially in North America here, where you're told to be this, or you're told to be that, or you can't eat this, or you should eat that. It's just so crazy. And so you kind of wade through the muck and mire of food. And so that's why I had you on today, because I was a farmer and now I'm a garden coach, and we can chat about food and farming and what's healthy and what's not. So I love it. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, my pleasure.
Can you share with me a little bit of your journey on becoming a body image coach and how growing your own food or connecting with local farms has influenced your perspective on health?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I got into this line of work because of my own journey with my health, my own journey in how I viewed my body, which was mostly very negative. And so I have spent probably 25 years at this point, or even actually more by now, on different diets and trying to conform to what society thought is or thinks is acceptable and appropriate for a girl and a woman to look like. And so this has kind of been my long journey of healing my relationship with my body and also with food. I had a very disordered relationship with food, eating things because I was told to and restricting, and then ending up binging and all these different things that go with a disordered relationship. So, yeah, this has been my journey, and definitely gardening and eating food that feels good and feels like it's giving you nourishment and good nutrients is huge. And for me, that's impacted my health journey in more than just like the actual physical food, but the mental part of it, I think, has been one of the biggest shifts for me and benefits of gardening. We lived in the Philippines for 12 years, as you know, and there we didn't have the opportunity to garden. We lived in a small house with tiny little bits of dirt, and I would stick in herbs and I would plant okra, and we had bananas, and I'd try to get as much fresh veggies and fruit as I could into my body and also our kids. But yeah, so that's been fun. Moving back to Canada, we've actually had a proper garden and yard where we've been able to do more of that and just grow things and eat these foods that are so good, right? They taste good, they feel good, and it just feels so good to be in the dirt and to be connecting with the land and the soil, right? So I think that's just also been a huge part of my journey, and also the healing in it is being able to grow my own food. So
I love it. And, with that, so you're in Canada here. I've been to your place. You've got a little garden. And so you were talking about your mental with food. And so, yeah, growing your own food with your hands in the soil, doing it's the connection, it's the picking the carrot up, knowing that the carrot's healthy. I just have a quick question about the Philippines. So you were there for many years with your family. Mm-hmm. And so tell me about the farm. Did they have farmers markets? What was you didn't have a garden in your backyard, but tell me about the produce and the fruit that you could buy. I don't know much about the Philippines, so tell me about that experience.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. We actually lived in a place in the southern Philippines, and it was called the fruit basket kind of the Philippines because of all the different varieties of fruits and veggies and everything that they could grow there. And so one of my favorite things, and also our kids, was to go to the market, and we'd go on the weekends often, or we had a helper that helped us as well. So she would go throughout the week because we just stocked our fridge with all sorts of fruits and veggies, and it was so fresh and so good. But at the market, there was everything, and it was all year round. Sometimes you'd pay a little bit more, but there was mangoes and pineapples and guavas and all sorts of things that you wouldn't even have any idea what they are. But yeah, this was such a special part of being there, was this, all the amazing things we got to eat. The produce was incredible. And one of our favorite places to go visit was about an hour up, and it was kind of a little bit cooler, but they had this really cool farm. It was a place you could stay overnight, and then you could go fishing there too, but they had this farm area, and they would grow all sorts of herbs and lettuce and all different things, and it was amazing. It tasted so good, and then they would send that produce down to some of the stores in the city where we lived, and we could buy it from there as well. So that was just kind of in the later years that they started doing that, but that was amazing because some of the other stuff we weren't quite sure how it was being grown and where and different things like that. But yeah, it was definitely a gift.
I love that. And so you were actually able to go and meet the farmer and ask the questions and know where your food came from and know what they were doing with it and support the local farmer. And how amazing, and what an opportunity to eat seasonally in the Philippines and have all this fresh fruit. Like, I'm just curious, like the fruit tasting here. So we eat a mango here in Canada, or we eat whatever it is, papaya or whatever in Canada. How does that flavor taste to the ones that you had in the Philippines? Like,
yeah,
even.
Yeah, so different, right? And that was part of the thing. Like, I would have a mango here, and I was like, I just couldn't actually do it. I was like, I would tell my husband, I'm like, I can't even eat the mangoes here because they're so different. You know, when you have this concept in your brain of how something should taste, and it was so far from that. And he was like, okay, you know what? You have to just pretend this is an entirely different fruit, and then you just eat it and you learn to enjoy it, right? And that really did help me. So I was like, okay, I just had to dissociate. That's not a mango that I'm used to from the Philippines, but this is a different kind, often from Mexico or wherever. And then you could learn to appreciate it. But yeah, it's so different, right? Like the bananas, there's, I think, over like 70 kinds of bananas. And so we had all manner of different things that tasted quite different than here, right? When you're picking it right off the tree or off of the stalk or whatever it is, it's an entirely different, it's a different thing, as you know, right?
I understand that from my tomatoes. Like, I have customers, they say, I don't like tomatoes. And I'm like, I'm not sure that you've actually even ate a tomato. And so, yeah, when I eat tomatoes, like, I don't love tomatoes that I didn't grow myself because I know what my tomatoes tasted like. That's a tomato. Those red lumps that you find in a grocery store are not really tomatoes. They're not that great. Yeah, I love it. So, man, what a cool experience for your family to be able to live somewhere, eat locally, and eat so different and so healthy than any of us here in Canada got to experience. So that's so special for your family.
Yeah, I was just thinking the other day, actually, Dawn, I was like, man, now I kind of scrape some kind of vegetable together for dinners, and sometimes it's just like frozen peas or whatever it is. And I was thinking back to there, and I would have probably 3 or 4 different kinds of veggies that we would have like every night. Like, it was so good just because there was so much variety and so many different things. And I just remember really embracing all of that and trying the different things and experiencing that. And it was incredible.
I have a question with that too. That just brought a question to my mind. So in Canada, when we go to our grocery stores, the center aisles of our grocery stores are filled with, garbage. And so, or a lot of garbage. And so when you were eating in the Philippines, like, you probably didn't have as much access to like that center aisle of the grocery store. So when you were cooking meals for your family, like, I'm just curious, were they consistent to probably just more meat and vegetables, just more natural, like you would find on the outside of our grocery stores here? Or, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So we did have, the Philippines obviously is a ton of rice, right? So we would have brown rice, and there was black rice and some wild rice, and obviously still the white rice. Our kids still really like that. So we would have that with a lot of meals and potatoes and stuff too. But you're absolutely right. The processed stuff was so, they did have it, and more as we kind of at the end of our time, there was more of that like kind of import food, we would say. And so you could buy it, but it was generally more expensive. We did not eat a lot of that. We did most of our stuff from scratch. So we would just take the extra time. And because I did have a lady helping me in my home, that was really helpful because the preparation for everything, the cleaning, all that stuff is super time consuming in a warm tropical country. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. We ate so much better in some ways, just more like kind of this nutrient, really dense food, right? That's just grown around us. So, yeah.
So then you moved your family back to Alberta, Canada. And I mean, I'm looking out my window right now and there's snow outside. So like crazy.
Yeah.
And so how did your family, because you've got 5 children, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So how, moving back to Canada with your 5 kids who were basically born and raised in the Philippines, how did your meals change and how do you do that? And you're into, coaching now and eating your own meals, and you've shared your struggles with us. Thank you for sharing. So how did that all kind of tie together coming back to Canada?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we moved back, we did have the opportunity to have a garden here, which was so cool. And I just want to share one of the most fun memories that I have is that first summer, I think my father-in-law had already put in a garden for us because if I remember correctly, we didn't get back till I think it was mid-June. And so he had potatoes planted and all sorts of things. Our kids were still little at that time because it was 2015, I believe. And, but one of my favorite memories is when the potatoes were ready to dig, our kids were out there and it was just our oldest 3 and they were little. Oh no, this must have been a different time. Anyway, this is the first time our kids were actually seeing potatoes come up out of the ground. And they were squealing. They were so excited. They just couldn't believe that they could see potatoes as food was actually coming up out of the dirt because they hadn't experienced that growing up and being really little, like right in our small yard in the Philippines. It was this new experience for them. So they got to witness firsthand, and it was just that joy and excitement. And I thought, man, that is so cool. And I felt that same way because I was like, well, yes, we can have a garden, we can grow our own stuff here. And I felt so thrilled by that because I was like, this is such an important part of growing your food and then preparing your food and then eating your food, knowing that you're feeding yourself well and that this is going to make you feel good. And it's going to change like even how you see your body, right? Like when we eat things that give us energy and we feel good about ourselves, our mental well-being is affected. It changes the way we see things, right? Because we're in this really good frame of mind. And yeah, we're experiencing such vitality and health.
I love that. I've done a couple other episodes and the same theme keeps coming up around gardening and around food. And it's the connection, really, the connection to the soil, the connection with the relationship with your children, the connection of digging it up, the connection of taking it home and washing it and preparing it and then putting it on a table and then sitting at that table without a device and with your children, having the conversations and the relationship and just making food a whole circle and not just a way to just fill your body with, something. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think the other part of that, John, which is really cool, is it develops this real appreciation, right? Even having our kids garden with us and to recognize like it is a lot of work, right? As you know, like you plant the seed and you wait for it and it grows and like you keep waiting and you keep watering and you keep weeding and all these things. It really, I think, instills this gratitude for where our food comes from. So even if we're buying from local farms or the grocery store or whatever, just recognizing before we eat, and I think that's a part of all of our kind of ritual too, is just thanking the Lord for this and just taking a moment too to recognize someone has worked hard, someone has been patient and done all the work to get this so that we can have that we can have this food. It just brings a whole nother level of kind of that appreciation and gratitude, which is helpful on all levels of our mental and physical well-being, right?
And spiritual as well.
Absolutely.
Just recognizing what makes that plant grow. And I can really identify with that. Having the farm that I had, farming is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. And I had bug problems, and I had disease problems, and I had, water problems, and you name the problem on my farm, I've had it. And I've lost crops, and I've had good crops. And that's the thing with, farming and agriculture and our food. Like, you do have to work for it. And I do think that when you go to a grocery store, you just don't maybe appreciate it quite as much as when you can shake the hand of the person that raised that food and do it yourself too, right? Like, I don't know. I love that point. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really true, right? And that's the thing. You go to the grocery store, you buy something and it's just like, it's quick, it's easy, and maybe it doesn't cost that much. So you're not actually expending too much of anything, right? It's not costing a lot. But yeah, it's just such a different experience than when you're actually taking time and all those other things. So
how do the foods we eat, especially fresh and homegrown ones, impact our body image and our overall well-being?
Yeah, kind of like you mentioned, Dawn, like it impacts us on our physical level, our mental level, our spiritual level, right? Like it impacts our self-esteem. So I think the more that we are growing our own food and we are connecting with that and connecting with the earth and developing some of these skills that, let's be honest, they are not part of our culture anymore, right? That patience and that really hard work and all those things that come with that, right? I think moving our bodies in those ways of recognizing our function, because when I'm out there and I'm weeding and I'm digging and I'm planting the seeds, all these different things, right? I'm using this body that is such a gift, and it really reinforces just the functionality of body. And it takes away that whole level of just appearance, right? That we are just this body to be looked at and to be, for whatever reason that feels kind of bad, right? We're actually really kind of tapping into the functionality of our body and using it for something that feels good, right? And so when we're doing that, it's also that mental component, right? Where we do feel so much better just being outside in the fresh air, and especially in the dirt. There's so many healing and health benefits from that alone, right? So I think all these things combined affects how we view our body, right? And then you think of just the self-esteem that you get from being like, hey, I planted, I waited, I watered, all these things, I weeded it, and then I actually get to pick it, and I get to dig it, and I get to prepare it and eat it. Like that builds such confidence and self-esteem. And when we have that helps with how we view our body as well, right? There's a pride that we have in what we've done, and we can see ourselves different as a result of that, which is huge.
I love that. And so we've tied it all to gardening so far, but even with your coaching, even if someone doesn't have a garden, like there still is in North America, there's lots of people that struggle with body image and what's going on with their body and their health. And, it's a real struggle in our society. And so you were talking a lot about movement, and I feel like we're designed not to sit in a chair and tap on a computer all day long. So talk about not even just with a garden, but just movement in general and what that does with your body and your body image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that question, Dawn, because you're right. We have been created with bodies that love to move and that need to move, right? And so the more that we are moving them in ways that feel good for us. And I think that's part of where I've had to do some real healing work in my own journey, because movement and exercise was solely for the purpose of changing my body's shape and size so that it would become smaller and more acceptable, and I would lose weight and all these things, right? So really detaching from that and recognizing, hey, what do I enjoy doing? Just for the pure pleasure of doing something, right? And that is also, to tie it back a little bit, because it is a big part of what I love, is gardening, right? Like it does. I move my body in that way. For me, it's also walking. It's being outside. It's running. But all of these things, the more we move our body and are enjoying it, it helps us to feel better in our own skin, right? We all feel better when we're doing something, right? And then it comes back to that idea of the functionality of our bodies, right? Our bodies function in such good ways, and we can appreciate them, right? We can have gratitude for what our body does and not just for how it looks or how it's supposed to look. So,
and I can identify with this. So I'm actually not a small woman. And one of my fears moving off of my farm was, what am I going to do? For me, it's not about how I look, and I've never really super been about how I look. It's about, how do I feel? Do my knees hurt? Does my back hurt? Does my, it's more about how I feel. And moving off my farm, like I could lift buckets and buckets of potatoes and carrots and squash like that. They're not light, they're heavy. And so when I sold the farm, I'm like, what am I going to do to keep my movement and my body, not muscle, but like my body functioning, so that I'm not just a couch potato and getting sore. Like that's the thing. When I don't move my body, I get sore. And so I joined the swimming pool, and I swim a couple times a week just because I just need that movement, and I just need something to, keep my body going. And it's not even about, well, I like to build muscle. I like to be strong and lift things, but it's more about how I feel more so. When I get a little higher in weight, I actually get heartburn. Everything, right in my throat. And so then I know, oh, Dawn, cut it back a little bit, because then heartburn goes away. Like it's more about how I feel than how I look, because if you don't like how I look, don't look. I don't know. What's your thought?
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Dawn. Thanks for bringing that up, because that's exactly it. And that's what I do with my clients too. It's talking more about the how you feel part. So taking it away from the looking and everything and bringing it back to, how do you feel, right? Like our bodies are meant to move. We feel good when we're moving our body. And you're right, the joints move easier. Like you do have more muscle, and you're able to lift your small children and lift the sack of potatoes and, all those different things, right? Like we want our bodies ultimately to be in a shape that we can function and enjoy and have energy for everything we want to do in life, right? Like all the things that are important to us. So, such a good point.
So if you don't want to run a marathon, what you're saying is, if you don't want to run a marathon, you don't have to run a marathon. So it's not about exercising and running and doing all the things, and I should be doing this and I should be doing that. It's just doing what you need to do to make your life comfortable in the small things. Like you said, lifting your children and just doing the simple tasks so that you're not missing out.
Yeah, absolutely. And just basic things, like I was thinking about shoveling the driveway, right? Like how many times have I shoveled my driveway already in the last 3 or 4 days, right? So having a body that's strong enough that can actually lift all that, all the snow and get it off there, right? So absolutely.
Well, and I think of seniors, like I think of my grandmother. She's 96, I think, right now. And she is a go-getter. Like nothing has slowed that woman down. She will, even to the point that maybe not now, but, back even a few years ago, she'd think nothing of getting a stool and climbing up on it and washing a window or doing whatever she needed to do. And she didn't stop. And I think that's why she's been kept young. She's volunteered at the thrift store. She's an example of a woman who just didn't stop, and she cooked all her own food, and she didn't want to move to the seniors home because she liked her mashed potatoes with kale in it, because that's what Dutch people eat. And so, she always had her garden, and she always grew her food, and that's what's kept her young. And she's 96. Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? Right? I think it's a real lesson for all of us to learn and to say we have become a lot more stagnant as a culture in general, right? Like it's kind of, there's almost these extremes, right? It's like either you're really into fitness and exercise and you're right, running marathons and crazy things, right? Or you're not, right? And you're on the couch and you're, whatever it is, right? But I think Yeah, opening up that whole middle ground and saying there's a whole nother space that's really beautiful to be out there, to be active, to be moving. And it doesn't have to be, like fitness or like workout or like anything like that, right? Like for me, part of that is connecting with friends, right? Movement with others, because then you're bringing in the whole part of connection with human people, which we need so much. That's a part of our own mental well-being, right? And so I think it can look so many different ways, but yeah, just to keep your body moving and going and doing things, and not just settling into not doing it.
And to me, what I'm hearing too is it's the extremes. Like if you go running every day by yourself, and you're so focused on making sure that you get all your steps in, and you're by yourself and you're working out, and you're not having connections with your family and your kids because, you're putting that exercise as a priority, to the other extreme of, video games, and I'm on the couch and I'm doing this and I'm watching TV and I'm doing that. Those extremes are not great. And you could look at the person doing all the running, but maybe their mental health isn't where it needs to be. And so it's all the extremes. And so how do you take that in and take a bigger picture of what do you need? And it really, you hit the nail on the head. And that theme is coming up over and over and over in all of my podcasts, not just this one, about the connection and the relationship and the, to everything, the circles,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're exactly right. We have become a culture that's so extreme, haven't we? And to kind of bring it back more into the middle and say, what's the best form of health, right? And well-being on all levels. So, yeah.
I now I'm going to touch on politics too, because, get a little off topic here, but it's the extremes in even politics and religion, and I'm right and you're wrong. And it maybe doesn't tie into body image, but how does that tie into mental health? All the extreme.
Yeah, right. And it can be so damaging, right? It's this real black and white thinking that is so hard. And I see this even with clients with their relationship with food and also their body, right? Either their body is good or it's bad, or the food is labeled junk or it's healthy. And it's like, you know what? Everything has a place, right? Like there's a place to eat food that's maybe more fun and brings more satisfaction, right? Like some of the sweet things and different things, right? And also with health and wellness, like we were just saying as well. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much of that black and white, and we really need to come into the middle. And absolutely with politics and religion, I've seen this in my own lived experience as well. And none of that is helpful. It doesn't foster community and it doesn't foster relationship. And we are built for community and we're built for these relationships. And as soon as we start pushing others away and us and them, all those things, right? It's really harmful for everyone.
Absolutely. I feel like we need to live more in the gray instead of and taking ourselves out and putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. Why are they doing that? What made them make that choice? Why is that choice different than my choice? And living not in the gray in your own life. If you really feel strongly about something, you can live in that, but not forcing your opinion and thoughts and whatever on someone else. You see that in Hollywood, that you have to fit in this perfect little body, and really, that doesn't work for bodies. It doesn't work for politics. It doesn't work for anything. Is that narrow little box that you have to be the same as me, or you're a bad person and I'm a good person, and that's just so damaging to relationship and culture and people and community. Yeah.
It also just stunts our growth as people, right? Don't you think? Like if we're not willing to learn from other people and ask those questions and be like, oh, hey, like, you think very differently on this topic. Share with me. What's that like? And how did you come to those beliefs and ideas, right? So I think developing that really inquisitive, that learning, tender heart that is willing to ask the questions and learn from others, even though we may not disagree, right? But there's this mutual respect, which is it's so healthy. And that's where healing comes in, right? So
absolutely. Some of my very favorite people in my world are very different than me. They'll vote a bit different than me. They'll have different belief systems than me. And, just meeting them at the table and finding out what makes them tick and what makes them thrive and what makes them, function in their own life. I love it. So
yeah, we need that. We need that. And it's good for all of us to be in that mindset. So that's beautiful.
for people who feel intimidated by farming or gardening, what's your advice on starting something small and building confidence and growing your own food? So you came back to Canada. Had you grown a garden before? And do you have any advice for someone that's just starting out in whatever small space they have?
Yeah, totally. So we did have a tiny little space in our front yard. And I found this place down the street that sold herbs. And so we got a whole bunch, like I'm talking maybe 10 to 12 different kinds of herbs, which was so fun because then we could just go out, and the kids love to do this too, right? Go out and pick some stuff and add it to our meals. So I guess that is sort of my advice, even in when we have winter for like 7 or 8 months of the year, right? Grabbing a herb in the summer and just nurturing it and letting it grow indoors. That's sort of what I started with when we first came here as well, or that was one part. And that really helps because then you see if it's starting to die, right? You give it some water. It's like right there kind of in front of your face. So finding a good spot with your sunlight and just, and starting small, right? We have to, if you're not used to doing this, we have to start with these really baby steps. And for me, that helped just kind of build the confidence and be like, oh yeah, I kept this alive for this many months, right? And we used it and we enjoyed it. And then you're like, okay, I can do this. So.
Yeah. So would you suggest hiring a garden coach?
I think we need coaches for all areas of our life. And absolutely, especially if this is an area where you're just kind of starting out, right? There's so much that I have to learn still about gardening, and I try to hold it pretty loosely and just plant it. And then I'm like, okay, Lord, whatever comes up, I'm going to be really thankful for. And we're just going to see, because there's all sorts of dynamics and weather and all different things. But yeah, absolutely. Having someone in your corner that can tell you exactly how to do it. And especially someone with all of your experience and knowledge and wisdom, right? You've had decades of doing this. And so that's huge.
That's the reason I got into doing what I'm doing, is because I love people. I love people more than I even love my farm. And so if I'm able to teach people how to grow or teach people how to get food out of their spaces, and let's bring it back to your coaching business too. So I just am brand new to this coaching world. I didn't even know what a coach was before, a year ago. And so you started this coaching company. And so tell me about your ideal client. Who needs you?
Well, okay. So my ideal client would be someone probably similar to me that has struggled for a lot of their life with diets and with obsessive exercise and just with this view of their body that is not healthy and not whole. So anyone who's kind of in that zone. And I guess, honestly, like, if we're really real, probably most of us have had struggles with our body image or perhaps with food. I think this is something that's pretty common to most people, and especially women. I would say even more, just to stereotype it a bit, but I think we've had even higher expectations and ideals placed on us just from culture in general. So, yeah.
I agree, because if you look at our society, sometimes if a woman has a bit of a belly, that's like unacceptable. But if a man has a bit of a belly, it's almost viewed like, oh, you got a dad bod, so that's great, So I don't, good for you and bad for you. Like it's stereotyping, and it's. I mean, I don't care if a woman has a belly, and I don't care if a man has a belly, or I don't care if you're really skinny or if you're not really skinny. I actually have a friend, and she's super, super, super skinny, and I'm like, you need to eat. Like, put something in your body, like. You need a few meat on your bones. Like, I'm a good 100 pounds heavier than that woman. And, that's not healthy either. Right. So.
Exactly. And that's part of the diversity, the beauty that we see in diversity in bodies, right? Because health is not dictated by a scale or by a size or anything, right? And even people that are slimmer, they can struggle just as much as with their body image. And maybe even for your friend, like maybe she is eating a lot and she just can't wait. She can't gain weight. Like I know that for my sister-in-law and other people I've heard, they're like, I can't gain weight. And people are always commenting on how thin I am, right? And so health really is about all that we've been talking about holistically, right? We need to just recognize bodies. Our bodies, everyone's going to have a different size and shape. That's the beauty of our Creator. that gave us these bodies, right, that look different from other people. And so that's part of my role too as a coach, is just to help people embrace what they've been given, because we can't just say, oh, I want that body and I want that body, so I'm going to work hard. It comes down to genetics on a lot of this. And so we can't just change things as much as we try and want to. And if we can, at times, it can be a real detriment to our mental well-being, right? And no one wants to look a certain way and yet be in such an unhealthy space in their brain that they still can't enjoy that body, right? So that's part of helping women to say, how do we respect and accept our bodies exactly like they are? How do we embrace them and appreciate what we have?
So that brought up a thought with me, and it surrounds mental health. And so I know for myself, when I get stressed, when I feel lonely, when I feel down, I tend to fill my mouth. That's how I cope with things sometimes, is I put things in my mouth. But then there's the other extreme as well of people who don't eat when they're stressed, or don't eat when things are not going well for them. And so can you talk about the correlation between mental health and the food and what you're eating?
Yeah, really good question. And that is a huge, huge part of it. And I think that comes back to this idea is, if we have our nervous system regulated, like if we're doing the things, if we're finding joy in each day, if we're getting rest, if we're appreciating people around us and things in our life, if we're taking care of our nervous system and it's regulated, and that's our mental health, right? So if those things are going well and we're feeling healthy in our minds, then it changes everything in how we view our bodies, and also what we put into them, how we eat emotionally, right? Because it opens up this whole window of tolerance, as we call it in coaching, right? Where it's like you can experience negative emotions, or you can experience even positive. Like for some people, like I'm one of these people, when I'm really happy and I'm with other people and I'm just enjoying it, I'll eat a lot more than when I'm just by myself. So we eat for all different reasons, and none of them are wrong. We don't need to judge it, but just saying, how do we sit in these emotions, whether it's really happy or maybe it's just bored, or it's like really sad or frustrated or angry. How do we sit in these emotions and without feeling like we have to numb or eat food to regulate it, right? Because if our mental well-being is good, we don't need that. We can choose other options, right? We can go for a walk. We can call a friend. We can journal. We can, whatever it might be, whatever you need in that moment, right? So
really what I'm hearing is that with body image and with coaching and with what you do, you don't just dive into the food and exercise, you dive into what's behind it all too, because really that can be a driver in what the exterior is like what's happening in the exterior. So I don't know, like it's all interconnected.
Yeah, it absolutely is, Dawn, and you're exactly right. Because food isn't just about food, right? It's what we think about food. And our bodies aren't just bodies that allow us to experience life. It's how we see our bodies, right? So there's mindset work in there. There's, doing all this other, like regulating your nervous system, getting into a place where you're healthy enough to even work on some of these other things, right? Because if you're always in that fight or flight, you are going to be making choices that aren't the best, and you're going to always feel stressed, right? So it's working on that stress management and trying to hit all different angles of our health, like we talked about, right? The physical and the spiritual and the mental and the emotional, all those parts. This is what helps us to be healthy. This is what helps us to see our bodies well, and also to have a better relationship with food, so that it can just be food and we can enjoy it, but we don't have to feel guilt and shame after eating it, or even thinking about what we want.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a woman. I'm just going to be real vulnerable here. I'm a woman who has always ate. Like I have been called fat my entire life. My uncle, he called me Dicka Dawn, which is Dicka in Dutch is fat, like Dicka Dawn, and he'd sing a little song. And I've always been the one, even when I was a child, like other people would have one plate of food and I would have three. Like, I don't know, when I was 12, the doctor tried to put me on a diet. And I don't even think that I was even that big. Like, I wasn't, I was obese by standards, but, like I don't know. So I personally have always struggled with overeating and eating emotionally. And I don't know. I don't even know why I'm sharing this right now, just to be vulnerable and whatever. But
Yeah. Thanks for your honesty, Dawn. And you know what? You were not alone in this. And I think this is part of why I feel so much excitement in being part of this movement, because even in the last decade, I would say, like, we see differences in advertising, right? All body sizes and shapes and colors and all sorts of things, right? So we have a long way to move as a culture, right? To shift some of these things. And even as you mentioned with doctors and stuff like that, they're learning things now too about health is not about size, right? And so just seeing someone and automatically judging them for like, you are probably not healthy or whatever it might be, right? Recognizing there's so many things that go into health and everything we've talked about. And it does not have to do with the scale or the size of your body, all these different things, right? So I think that is hopefully we'll keep moving as a whole society and culture in that direction. And yet we have a lot to fight against as well, because there's been a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of talk, and there's just so much emphasis on appearance in this culture, right? And not every culture emphasizes appearance, I don't think, quite as much as this Western culture that we're in. So it's a lot of fighting back against some of those messages and really getting down underneath, right? That weight stigma and the fat phobia and all these things that we have systemically, not just individually, right? Like we have to each do our own individual work around it, but it's these systems that have been in place. And part of it is the medical system, right? Where doctors have told people they have to lose weight, and it can cause all manner of disordered eating and eating disorders as well. So
for myself as an adult now, yes, that was my childhood. So I've got that all in my head. You ate too much, you shouldn't this, you shouldn't that, or whatever. But for myself, it's about how I feel. And the thing is, like, I can still go for a walk. I can still lift bales. I can still do the things that I need to do. So I now, as an adult, I've shifted it to, if you don't like it, don't look. And it's more about how I feel. And I feel like I've gotten to a positive place with my size. And, I'm naturally a big boned, muscular woman. Like,
yeah.
If we went to war, I'd be good right beside you, because like,
wow,
wait around, yeah.
It's perfect, and that's exactly the thing. I love that you keep bringing that up too about how you feel, because that is what is so important, right? And if you were someone where you're like, okay, I don't feel comfortable because I can't do all these things that I want to do in my life to have the life that I really want, that's a whole different thing, right? And that's where then you want to look at different things and say, how can we help you feel better and gain some strength and do these things that you want to do so that you can enjoy the life that you really want, right? Without feeling like we have to change your size or your appearance or any kind of thing like that, right? Because there's so many different things we can work with to help. Maybe for some people too, it's like they just need more energy, right? And there's so many ways to help with that, so that it's not feeling like the body is the problem and that's what needs to get changed.
Yeah.
So, good.
Sorry. All of this talk reminded me of something, actually. So when I was farming, I would have all of these vegetables and great vegetables. And I actually sacrificed meals at my table to put food on others. So I would go to a farmer's market, and I can remember there were several years I would grow this sweet corn, and I'd have this sweet corn. And the only corn I ever ate in a season was the corn that I picked up off my farmer's market table, shucked it right there, and ate it raw, because that's all I could do. And so let's talk about society and busyness and, eating properly and things like that. So Because I sacrifice meals. I ate off the food truck sometimes, which was a lot of French fries and gravy, like when I had all the access to all these vegetables, but I was never at home to cook them. Like I was on the road 6 or 7 days a week, and usually over supper time or lunchtime. So I wasn't cooking my own food to eat it. So let's talk about busy lifestyles and eating healthy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought that up, Dawn, because first of all, it just shows your heart for people and to serve and to grow food for others, right? And honestly, too, in that time, you were in a very, very busy season with so many things going on, right? And you were just doing your best, right? We do all have to eat. And so if the food truck is there and you're hungry, you need to nourish your body, right? So it would be way worse if you just decided, okay, I'm just not going to eat then. I don't deserve to eat. So, and this is part of also that holistic health piece, because we are a busy society and there is a lot that is going on. And if you're a mom with kids in sports, like I know this from our own experience, we eat suppers far less often together than we used to, because we're in this season where kids have practice and games and sports. So I get that. And I get how hard that can be, right? To find ways to feed your family that are nourishing and that would be good options for everyone. So I think my advice in this, and what I've told my clients as well, is you do the best that you can. And there are good options out there as well. So even like buying bags of mixed greens or coleslaw or whatever it is, to have something, it's quick, it's accessible, and just being able to have that ready so that you can add that to any meal, just so that it balances out your plate a little bit more from, and honestly, we do this now too. We eat pierogies a lot more and French fries and tater tots, just things that are easy, right, to throw into the oven. But being able to just incorporate some kind of fresh garden or some kind of produce that is going to give you a little bit more of that balance, I think is a good way, so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. Because as soon as we're super overwhelmed by like, okay, now I've got to cook a healthy meal for my whole family and I've got like 10 minutes to do it, right? Then we're going to shut down and just be like, you know what, everyone just find a granola bar or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that might not necessarily be helping if you're only eating the starches and only eating the, I think, what's your thoughts on protein? It's not in my questions I sent you, but what's your thoughts around protein? Because I think protein and meat is so important in our diets. And I personally don't love the push towards no protein or lack of meat or eat less meat. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, honestly, in our, as a family, we've done all manner of things like with food and also with protein. So we have gone vegetarian for a while, or a few meals a week. We have done vegan for a few months. So we've tried different things out just to see kind of this, like, our body is our experiment, right? Just to see, how do we feel? How does it work? But no, I definitely am an advocate for protein. I think protein is really healthy and helpful for us. And whether you are vegetarian or vegan, I think there's different ways that you can get that protein. Personally, I do really enjoy meat, and we don't have it at every meal either. So it also can play into the privilege we have, right? Like economic privilege. Do we have the money to buy it, right? So there's all different ways in considering this, but I think that protein is helpful. And to kind of create that balanced plate where you feel like you're feeling good, having some protein at least at a meal is really helpful. And for kids growing, right, we all need protein in our bodies in some manner. So whether that's meat, or I personally love eggs, so I have them almost every day. But I think it's also this trying not to make people feel, or judging people for having it or too much or not enough, and trying to say, how can we just incorporate just a real holistic view of that, and also taking care of what we can manage in our stress levels at the time.
What lessons can we learn from farmers and gardeners about patience, nurturing growth, and respecting the natural process? And how do these apply to body image and self-care? Let's end off with that question here today.
I love it. Yeah, that's such a good question. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier too, I think we have so much to learn from farming and growing your own food, right? The patience, the hard work in it, and just relaxing into the process and into the seasons, right? Like just knowing there's seasons for everything and also for planting and growing. And I think that's just a good kind of metaphor for our own lives, right? We have seasons in our life. And so trying to, maybe certain seasons are really busy and certain seasons are really stressful, right? Having that compassion and that self-care for the season that we're in, while also being patient with ourselves, right? Recognizing we are a work in progress. And just like a seed that you put into the ground, right? It takes time. It just takes time. And so working with women also in healing their relationship with food and their bodies, this is something that takes time. And so having that patience, having that self-compassion, and going through the journey, I think can be really helpful if you can view yourself in that way and just say, I'm getting there and I'm doing my best. As soon as we're hard on ourselves and really critical, we get into all areas that are bad, right? Like it's not helpful for anything. It doesn't help us improve our health. It doesn't help us improve our relationship with food and also our body image. So I think we have a lot to learn from kind of farmers and growing and having.
It's not a quick process.
No, it's really not. And we need to settle into that really place.
I love that metaphor actually, because it's so true. In anything in our life, if it's a quick fix, craft dinner is the quick fix, and I'm not saying that if you eat craft dinner once in a while, it's like the end of the world, but like good things take time. Relationships take time to build. Preparing and growing food, farming takes time and patience and effort, building our, if you go to the gym and you want to weight train, you don't just pick up a weight one day and then you can, lift 400 pounds. That's not how it works. The good things take time and, patience and energy and sometimes you might fall off the cart, but the question is, do you get back on the cart? Do you try again? In farming, if every farmer, man, if they lost a crop one year and they just said, oh, I'm going to throw in the towel and not farm again, well, society wouldn't eat anything because, it happens. And so I guess that's the key, is to just keep going, keep trying, keep, and if you mess up, just pick yourself up. Don't be too hard on yourself and just go again and try again and just do the best you can. I love that. Yeah.
Totally. And just like in farming, right? It is so worth the wait. The reward is worth it, right? When even for me growing my own things and when we pull the carrots up and we get the potatoes and all those things, right? It is so worth it because you're like, wow, I did it. There's a pride in it. There's it just feels really good, right? And so it's worth waiting. And that's just the same thing also with food and body stuff it is worth the journey. It pays off and the reward is huge. So
I love that. I love that just all tied together with our whole conversation. So thank you so much. Thanks so much for being here with us today, Jer. You're one of my very dearest friends and I've appreciated you to the moon. Now, can you just tell me before we sign off here, how can someone find you? How can they follow you and how can they find you?
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Dawn. And this has been such a pleasure to speak with you. I am so grateful for you. But yes, I am on Instagram and also Facebook. So Jeralyn Miller Coaching. I'm on both of those platforms pretty regularly. So you'll be able to find me there.
And so if you're a woman and you're struggling with, exercising too much, what do I eat, your weight, whatever, body image, even self-esteem and self-care and self-love, I highly recommend Jer as a coach. Jer, just as being my friend, has helped me through so many things in life. So Jer is a very caring and kind person. And so, just a sweetheart. And so, get in touch with Jer and join our coaching programs. So, thanks so much for being here today, Jer. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And I love what you're doing as well. You are impacting people and helping them in such great ways. So continue on. And thank you so much for having me today.
Love it. Thank you so much.